Many people believe English improves when they try harder, they focus more, they monitor more, they aim to sound correct, they try to sound natural, they try to sound intelligent. And strangely, that is often the moment English begins to disappear. This experience confuses learners, because effort usually improves results. In language, effort sometimes removes access. The problem is not effort itself, the problem is where effort is applied. Spoken language does not tolerate performance pressure well. It reacts differently than writing or studying. When a speaker tries to sound good, attention shifts inward. Speech does not like inward attention. Speech prefers direction, not evaluation. The moment evaluation enters the process, timing changes. Timing changes interrupt flow. Flow interruption feels like loss of ability. The speaker assumes something is wrong with their English. In reality, something changed in how attention is distributed. Spoken language is extremely sensitive to attention placement. When attention moves towards self-image, speech becomes unstable. When attention moves toward meaning and direction, speech stabilizes. This explains a paradox many learners experience. They speak better when they don't care. They struggle more when they do. This is not accidental, it is mechanical. Trying to sound good creates a secondary task. The brain must now produce language, monitor correctness, predict listener reaction, adjust tone, and maintain identity. These tasks compete for the same limited processing space. Spoken language needs that space to remain fluid. When space becomes crowded, speech simplifies or stops. Silence is not failure. Silence is system overload. This is why learners often freeze after improving their vocabulary. More options increase decision load. Decision load slows output. This is also why learners sometimes feel less fluent after studying grammar. Grammar activates monitoring. Monitoring delays speech. None of this means grammar or vocabulary are bad. It means they must be inactive during speech. Fluent speakers do not actively use grammar when speaking. They rely on trained patterns. Learners often activate rules during speech. Rules do not move fast enough. Speech happens in milliseconds. Rules operate in seconds. That mismatch creates hesitation. Trying to sound good is essentially trying to manage speech consciously. Conscious control slows automatic systems. Automatic systems are responsible for fluent speech. This is not unique to language. The same happens in sports, music, and performance. When a pianist thinks about finger placement, mistakes increase. When a runner thinks about leg movement, speed drops. Speech is a physical performance. It requires trust in trained patterns. Trying to sound good signals mistrust. The system responds by slowing down. Many learners mistake this slowdown for lack of ability. They practice harder, they monitor more, they try to fix it consciously. This deepens the problem. The correct adjustment is counterintuitive. Fluent speech improves when the goal of sounding good is removed. This does not mean sounding careless. It means prioritizing movement over image. Movement keeps access open. Image management closes it. People often ask why children learn languages so easily. Children are not trying to sound good. They are trying to be understood. Adults reverse that priority. Understanding becomes secondary to impression. Impression management introduces fear of error. Fear of error increases monitoring. Monitoring disrupts timing. Timing disruption feels like loss of words. The words are still there. Access is delayed. Delayed access feels like forgetting. This is why words often return after the conversation ends. Pressure disappears. Monitoring stops. Access resumes. Nothing was lost. The system simply couldn't operate under evaluation. This explains why English feels better in relaxed settings.
Not because vocabulary changes, because evaluation decreases. Evaluation is not only external, it is mostly internal. No one may be judging you, but if you were judging yourself, the effect is the same. Speech reacts to perceived judgment, not real judgment. The brain prepares for correction. Preparation slows output. The most fluent moments occur when attention leaves the self completely. During laughter, during emotional storytelling, during urgency, during genuine engagement. In those moments, sounding good is irrelevant. Communication becomes primary. The system responds by opening access. Learners often chase fluency by chasing polish. Fluency actually emerges when polish is postponed. This does not mean accepting poor speech permanently. It means separating training from performance. Training happens during listening, shadowing, repetition, and exposure. Performance happens during interaction. Mixing the two destroys both. Shadowing works well because it removes performance identity. You are not expressing yourself, you are moving sound.
The brain relaxes. Timing stabilizes. Flow returns. That state becomes familiar. Later, during speaking, the system recognizes it. This is why shadowing helps even without conscious understanding. It trains timing, not knowledge. Knowledge alone does not create fluency. Timing does. Trying to sound good disrupts timing. Allowing speech to be imperfect protects timing. This is the trade most fluent speakers unconsciously make. They choose continuity over polish, movement over evaluation, direction over appearance. Learners often choose the opposite. Reversing this choice is not about confidence, it is about permission. Permission to sound unfinished, permission to adjust mid-sentence, permission to simplify, permission to abandon a sentence entirely. Native speakers do this constantly. Learners try to avoid it. Avoidance increases pressure. Pressure increases monitoring. Monitoring blocks flow. The system cannot be tricked. It responds honestly to internal demands. Demand perfection, gets silence. Allow imperfection, gets speech. This is not motivational advice. It is a functional description. If English disappears when you try to sound good, nothing is wrong. Your system is protecting itself from overload. The solution is not to care less about English. The solution is to care less while speaking. Caring can return afterward. During speaking, movement matters more. Over time, repeated experiences of safe imperfection retrain the system. Monitoring weakens. Timing improves. Access stabilizes. Fluency emerges quietly, not as confidence, as reliability. One day you notice that sentences continue even when they are not perfect. You notice that pauses do not break everything. You notice that you recover naturally. That is fluency. Not sounding impressive, sounding available. English does not disappear when you lack ability. It disappears when you demand performance. Remove the demand, restore the movement. There is another layer to English disappearance that most learners never notice. It has nothing to do with vocabulary, nothing to do with grammar, nothing to do with pronunciation. It has to do with who you feel you are allowed to be while speaking. Language is not only a tool for communication, it is a tool for identity. Every language carries a version of you. Your native language carries a complete version. Your humor, your intelligence, your personality, your emotional range. English carries an incomplete version. That incompleteness creates tension. People rarely talk about this openly, but most learners feel it. They feel smaller, simpler, less expressive. Not because English limits them, but because access to identity is restricted. This restriction activates social pressure. Social pressure does not feel like fear, it feels like self-control. You watch your words, you simplify your thoughts, you avoid complex emotions, you hold back opinions.
This is not shyness, it is identity management. The brain is trying to prevent misrepresentation. Misrepresentation feels dangerous, not physically dangerous, socially dangerous. You don't want to sound rude, you don't want to sound stupid, you don't want to sound unlike yourself, so the brain intervenes. Intervention slows speech. Slower speech invites monitoring. Monitoring increases pressure. Pressure interrupts flow. This explains why English collapses more with certain people, with authority figures, with fluent speakers, with people you respect, with people you want to impress. The English itself has not changed, the identity stakes have. Alone, there are no stakes. With close friends, stakes are low. With strangers, stakes increase. With evaluation, stakes peak. The brain responds accordingly. This is why learners often say, "I can speak English with some people, but not others." It is not about level, it is about identity risk. When identity feels exposed, language becomes guarded. Guarded language is slow. Slow language feels fragile. This fragility is misinterpreted as inability.
It is not inability, it is self-protection. Many learners attempt to solve this by becoming more correct, more polite, more careful. That worsens the problem. Correctness increases self-monitoring. Politeness increases filtering. Carefulness increases delay. Delay removes spontaneity. Without spontaneity, speech feels unnatural. Natural speech requires permission to be imperfect. Identity pressure removes that permission. Children do not experience this. They have no fixed identity to protect. Errors do not threaten who they are. Adults have established identities. Errors feel personal. This difference alone explains much of the adult language struggle. The brain is not protecting language, it is protecting self-image. When English is spoken, self-image becomes unstable. You cannot fully control how you appear. You cannot fully express nuance. You cannot fully correct misunderstanding. The brain prefers control. English removes it. So protection activates. Protection looks like silence. Protection looks like short answers. Protection looks like avoidance. This is why some learners avoid speaking altogether, not because they hate English, because they hate feeling misrepresented. This is rarely discussed in language education. Most advice focuses on confidence. Confidence is not the issue. The issue is identity compression. English compresses identity at first. Learners feel reduced. This reduction creates resistance. Fluency grows when identity expands again. That expansion does not happen through grammar. It happens through experience of being accepted while imperfect. Each safe interaction loosens protection. Each successful recovery rebuilds identity. Eventually, a new English identity forms, not identical to the native one, but functional, expressive, flexible. That identity does not need perfection to survive. At that point, English stabilizes. This is why fluency often appears suddenly after long struggle, not because knowledge increased overnight, because identity pressure dropped. The speaker stopped trying to preserve their full self in English. They allowed a partial self. That partial self grew stronger. Paradoxically, letting go of full expression allows fuller expression later. This also explains why humor appears late in language learning. Humor is identity-heavy. It requires timing, confidence, and social calibration. Until identity feels safe, humor stays hidden.
The same applies to disagreement, emotion, subtle opinion. Learners avoid these areas. Speech becomes functional but limited. This limitation feels unnatural. Unnatural speech increases self-awareness. Self-awareness disrupts flow. The cycle continues. Breaking this cycle does not require courage. It requires reframing expectations. English is not a performance of your full self. It is a working version. That version does not need to impress, it needs to function. Once this expectation shifts, pressure reduces. Speech becomes more available. This is also why shadowing helps again, from another angle. When shadowing, there is no identity expression, no opinion, no self-image. The system relaxes. Speech flows. That flow becomes familiar. Later, during conversation, the brain remembers that speech can exist without identity risk. Protection weakens. This is not about pretending not to care. It is about temporarily suspending identity demands. You are not failing to be yourself in English. You are building a second channel for expression. That channel needs time and tolerance. Fluent bilinguals often report something interesting. They feel like slightly different people in different languages. Not worse, not better, different. Accepting this difference removes resistance. Trying to force the native identity into English increases friction. Allowing a lighter identity reduces it. English does not require you to be the same person. It requires you to be present. Presence matters more than personality at first. Personality returns later. The mistake many learners make is demanding personality too early. This overloads the system. Identity grows after fluency, not before. Once speech becomes reliable, identity naturally fills the space. Until then, the task is simpler. Stay present, stay moving, stay imperfect. English survives when identity pressure drops. Tomorrow, this can be taken even further by exploring why social silence feels louder in English than in your native language, and how to neutralize that effect. For now, understanding this layer is enough. Nothing is wrong with your English. Nothing is wrong with you. Your system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. Learning to speak English fluently means learning when to let that system relax.